had a lot of fun after that.
No, it was fun. She was great. It was great.
That was a good time. Anyway, let's get started. Welcome to Ready, Set, Blow podcast, another special episode 67 with the birthday boy, Jared Freid himself. The J Train podcast is invading the Ready, Set, Blow podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Your glorious suite.
The smallest hotel room I've ever been in.
This is New York, baby. They'll give you a closet with a little pillow, and there you go.
We got a sweetheart of a deal, though, thanks to Chase.
Welcome. That's what I do. It's Black History Month. I want to give you guys all the best.
Giving back. On your month, of all the months.
Of all, yeah.
Yes.
Your month.
Yes.
The shortest of all of them.
Oh, dude. So your birthday boy, Mr. Jared Freid, comedian, Boston guy.
Yes.
Guy. Yeah. But you never. But you always been a New Yorker.
Yeah, I'm a New York comic. I'm from outside of Boston, but I'm a New York comic. It's funny how these things, we know, how these wordings go.
Yeah, it's where you started, not where you're from.
Where you started, not where you're from, who you came up with, who you were around at the bad times when you're walking in the snow to an open mic versus, that's who you were with,
Exactly.
And it was cool for me because I'm from outside of Boston, so I had a free place to stay. So that's big. That's a big deal in comedy.
When you're broke as shit,
broke and looking for places to go, and and you just don't want to spend the extra money, broke or not.
Yeah.
You're just looking for places to get on stage and for small investments.
Not the fridge, Chase. Just a beer out of the fridge.
Oh look, we got.
Sorry, dude.
Don't worry about it.
No, we keep it natural here.
We have a beer delivery
coming on the way.
So it was just nice to be able to go back. What I would always do is I would always go back to Boston and just try and hit up people and try and create relationships up there and and just knowing how hard it is to become a part of that scene.
Right.
Because Boston is so territorial and a little bit more insular, and New York is the thing with New York comedy is people are coming in and out all the time. So that's when new people come, if they've started somewhere else, you kind of, who's that? Oh, they started there. You get this this mini bio on people as they come into New York. So it's more, people come here all the time and you're used to it. But when you come up to Boston, the relationships are set. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit harder to
entrenched.
And you guys, that's not wrong. I'm just saying that's just the difference of, because I'm going backwards. I'm not going from Boston to here. I'm going from New York to here. So people are like, what's your deal? Where do you come from? Do you, and I think that with any comic, the thing we become judgmental of the most is, does this person do it or do they say they do it?
Yes.
That's a big thing for me.
It's a big thing.
Chase gets it all the time. Chase is
know it right away within 2 sentences. If someone says, do you know this person? You say, I don't know. I've never heard that name. And then they say, well, he does this and that, or she does this or that. And then it's okay, I believe it. There's it's with any industry though. Any job you do, when someone comes up to you and tells you about the job that you're doing, you're like, oh, this person's bullshitting or not. You just know
legit.
Right, kind of feel it right away.
Yeah, because we spend our lives. It's every minute of every day doing this. You said today's my birthday. That's nice. I like a good birthday. But today was any other day to me. Today was get up,
Wednesday shows,
do comedy, get up, email, get ready for comedy, do comedy. That's going to be every day.
Yeah, he's always been. When I first saw you, this was 2 years ago. You was doing a lap boss and you came with Mike Che.
Yeah.
You opened up for Che.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, feature for Che.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then that was a great weekend, by the way. I think it was your birthday.
It was similar. It was basically 2 years to the day. Yeah, I opened for Che during 2 different birthdays in Boston. Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's fucking energy is great. You know what I mean? It's just
And we talked about it after the show. Because I remember, because he told me, so I wasn't even in comedy at the time. He told me, come over. Michael Che's in town. He's a fucking killer. And I was living around the corner. Yeah. Come check it out. Yeah. You saw Che. We were talking about Che, and at the show, I was like, that Jared is a funny cat or whatever.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, we'd start talking about doing the Comic Secure show again.
Oh yeah.
Chase had done it once before, but he wanted to, he was wanted to get me involved. All right, let's do it. And we were like, we should grab that guy from New York, have him come up and do it. And we're like, oh, absolutely, it would fit perfectly.
Well, it's those shows that Laugh Boston Room is so good. Like it's gotten so much.
It's
better
gotten
too.
way better.
And it's like any club at first, you don't know what how the room works and how it feels, and then those Che shows. I remember like his first weekend up there, that was like the biggest weekend they'd ever had or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was popping off, and it was just very cool. Like you don't. Like starting out, you don't get a chance to do like a big weekend full of people that are excited for comedy.
Yeah.
This is back to like things that we know, comics hear people say. An audience that came for comedy is different than an audience that just came to be an audience.
Yes.
So it's like, and you have a different energy, and people are there for jokes, and they want to hear perspective, and it's like, and the audience that's just there to be an audience, a lot of time they're like more judgy.
Yeah, I feel like it's like two things. Like it's either they're just there by happenstance and it's make me laugh, boy.
Sure.
Versus, oh, I'm ready to laugh now. Like you're prepared to let loose and not be so uptight.
Totally. There's a huge difference between paying for a ticket and paying for a ticket.
Chase came in with a bucket full of beer.
Oh, that's done nice too. Like silver and like this is like
that bucket's bigger than the room.
Yeah, this is like Home Alone, Lost in New York version of a bucket of beers.
Here you go. I like the original, the background noise. You want to come in and do a guest spot, buddy?
What's that?
Talking to the fucking.
Oh yeah, he did some extra.
What? Jesus. It's cups? We're animals. We don't need cups.
This is a nice bucket of beer.
Well, I figured we'd have them just in case. I always, we like to have options for any guests.
I appreciate it. I took the month of January off of booze.
Let's going around these days, taking time off.
The dry January. I was just happy I felt good about doing it. I wanted to lose some weight. I wanted to
that's the biggest
feel
thing.
better, and just like.
I'm sorry, Jared, because that's exactly what he means it. Because I was downstairs and I met Jared in the lobby, and he's like, "Hey," Jared's like, "Hey, how you been?" And I was like, "I'm fucking fat." Jared's like, "Oh, stop drinking the beer."
That was well, you said it to me, and I was like, "Well," and you had a beer in your hand. I was like, "Well, there's
I don't want to.
Here's a quick fix."
I'm not going to step on any of your bits, but I'll say right now, Jared probably has the best. My current favorite workout bit of any actor I've seen, because it's so true and so dead on that I can't fathom anyone not laughing.
Well, I just I get annoyed at the gym because it's like it has to be a part of my life, like
mine too.
Like all of us, it's not like we're sitting here like out of the womb ready to go. Like there's some people's bodies, you see them and you're like, that person can do whatever the fuck they want, and it bothers me on like a really annoying level. It really bothers me that there's people out there that don't have to think about where they're going to eat, what they're going to eat, how they're going to eat, when they'll get to the gym, how long will they get to the gym, what point of the day. Like
I work out to eat like shit, so I don't get to be 300 pounds.
But like even the mental energy put into like what time will I go, so that like today I had a meeting at 2. So I'm looking at the clock. I woke up at like 9:30 and I started on my computer. I'm looking at my computer. I'm like, oh no, it's 10:30. I got to get to the gym by 11:30, or this isn't happening at all for the rest of the day. And then I'm stressing out. I'm like,
and
oh
you
my
hate
God.
yourself and you feel fat.
I won't be able to go to the gym. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, what are these people thinking about us? Like, what are they doing while I'm doing that? I blame them for all the diseases in the world, right? Like, I have to worry about the gym so I can look like a normal human being. If you look normal without the gym or aren't worrying about what you're eating, why aren't you in a lab? You should be solving shit.
It kind of reminds, in the way that you get like upset with people that are just have that dope genetics. It's like seeing a really hot chick. It's like, well, no, I'm just pissed. Like she's dealt 4 aces, and if you don't,
well, this leads to the Me Too movement. They're like, why
3 dudes in a small room talking about
just
Me Too?
getting angry about hot chicks. That might get you in trouble. No,
I don't get angry.
Why did Randy go to jail? Well, they had this whole background with him talking about just hot chicks making him angry.
Woman does kind of.
Well, like I said, there's only 2 people. The 2 people you see in the owner's box, the NFL game, are the fat, rich, old owner, and then the smoking hot models who.
Wow. That is that's the topic that's really tough to talk about. Is like with all the stuff that's going on, like it is funny to me that there's a certain group of women that have there's no way to dispute that these men have been awful.
Oh, it's a horrible thing.
But the idea of using, like, the whole Louis thing where they're like, he used his power. The lack of gradation and the blanket with which they throw everything. That also lacks when they say, like, oh, what Louis did was awful and weird.
But it wasn't a crime.
Not a crime, but also, like, and I'm parsing my words because I'm like, you don't want to say anything.
Of course.
I mean, who cares about me? But I'm saying, like, I just...
Yeah, you want to be thoughtful.
When I'm being... Because I think about it, I see a story like that, and I'm like, okay, that's... First of all, Chappelle had it with, like, the New York Times. It's putting in the New York Times voice. Like, that's so funny. And then, you look at a story like that, you're like, oh, that's a guy with a weird kink that handled it wrong a long time ago. But then the women's explanation was like, well... his power in comedy has held us down or back, right? They're saying that his influence in comedy made us scared.
But that was 10 years ago, first of all.
Even so, like, let's say that's the reality.
But that's also what got them in the room in the first place.
Well, beyond whether what he did was creepy and wrong and weird,
absolutely.
And then, but their rationale for why he should be taken down is he had power and he used that to get us in the room. To be masturbated in front of. Fine. Yeah. That I agree with, and I hear that. But then there's never like a guy couldn't go out and be like the older man who has a hot chick with him couldn't, like, and then she dumps him, couldn't
steals all his money,
bring out receipts and be like, well, I want this money back.
Right.
And then she'd be like, what are you talking about? Well, she used the power of her beauty
exactly.
over me to make me pay all that money. I want them taken down. It's just not going to happen.
No one sees the nuance that it can go both ways,
there's just power to being hot.
That's exactly right. That's it. It's an abuse of power in either direction.
It can happen in both directions, but their abuse just isn't seen as, and it probably isn't as bad. But I'm just saying, like, we look at this all through the vacuum of, like, well, if we're going to look at Louis as a specific example, like, he used his power in comedy. And it's like, okay, but there's also power in tits.
Yes.
There's also power in face.
And that's what kind of disappoints me is the lack of truth in it on both sides, and saying, like I said, I admit that the things these guys are doing are horrible and men need to be checked. But there are women that do benefit from it and do take advantage of the power that they have in their realm that's...
Sure. I mean, but then there's power to everything. There's power to every, like, differentiation you have. Is like there's a power to that, and then there's both sides. I don't like
that they don't admit it though, and just say, hey,
it's like an Instagram model that sits there, and the Instagram models are the biggest example. Like,
of course,
they're on their. I saw on Instagram, like, there's a girl that calling herself a comedian. That
doesn't do the work.
Well, whatever she does, I remember I saw this girl. This girl was like, I saw her on, like, at a football game once, and I was like, I remember, like, this whole story about her being seen in the crowd, and all of a sudden I came across her Instagram account, and I was like, her first thing on her bio was comedian, and it's like there is and this is like, there's, it's good for her using what she's got to become whatever.
And she should. I never fault anyone for using their...
You should, but it's less harmful than the male version of it. That's the real thing. It's like they can only harm so much. They can, like with being hot, you can only, like, get so much from that. Whereas a guy being, having power and then using that power again,
what happens
can
later?
Bury somebody.
Sure.
So I guess I've come full circle to say Louis is an animal. I don't know. It's tough that he's put in the same bank as.
It's Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, that's tough for him. It sucks, but that's what it is. That's the world we live in.
Especially in this business, like in the entertainment business, the business that we're in.
Sure.
Usually when you first walk into a room, or let's say if you're a casting director or whatever, you're auditioning, they're looking for a certain look. It's like
it's so subjective.
It's kind of like
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can
do. We need a blonde guy, and then I walk in.
Whereas if you're an accountant, even if you're ugly, if you're a dope accountant, you can still fucking get ahead.
Yeah.
There's two things you can't avoid. Really, it's as soon as you walk into a room that people can't avoid: how good you look and your race.
Yeah, and
and
how those things people take away from them, like. Whatever they take away from them. You can't be the person that, like, you can't go on a meeting and be like, well, everyone's going to think this. everyone has their background that relates to what, their feelings on a look.
Mm-hmm. You might look like someone's ex-girlfriend or wife and fuck you and you're out the door.
Yeah, or I look like someone that beat someone up in high school. Like, you don't know what people deal with
in their head.
So all you can do is just really...
I'm sure you guys,
That's a great question. Have you dealt with that in comedy, being like a good-looking young white guy where it's like people get angry at you for like you're too pretty for comedy kind of shit?
Like the bro stuff. I get a lot of bro stuff. But I mean, that was kind of the hardest part about New York. Like, I think like in Boston, you're more around like alpha guys.
Not
a lot
true.
More. No,
not in the comedy scene. Not
really?
True.
Like,
no.
I feel like there's like
no. It is
there's
a college
like the Harvard Square crowd.
But that's the crew. I mean, the only powerful white male crew that I know over the root, like the older guys. All that shit is gone. It's
not like that.
I mean, yeah, no.
I don't know. It was tough for me going in because you could tell that, like, I would introduce myself to people like at open mics.
Sure.
And there was this like, we'll see. And also, like, you're brought down by, there's nothing that hurts you more than your own. So like, the type of guy that would be seen that looks like me trying comedy, I could get why someone wouldn't be on board. It's usually a guy who brings a lot of friends, says a lot of bad shit on stage, and comes from his suit from a finance job. And if you do comedy long enough, you see these people all the time.
Yeah.
You see them coming in and thinking they run the place and talking very confidently and very, aggressively and kind of badly about women and saying, and acting like no one's ever said the things they've said. And that's a version of me. But every type...
the version of me, I've never done this.
We know
but
Jack.
the judgment I've gotten, that same judgment.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not who I am once I open my mouth, but I've gotten it because I looked a certain way starting out.
You just look like the phylum of... Everyone looks at you and thinks of the person that sucks the most based on you.
Yes.
Right.
So and especially in comedy...
Prejudice, and it goes... Everyone does it.
Yeah, but everyone does it. So it's like, in comedy, especially when you're doing these open mics and you're just starting out, you are like, okay, who looks like me to, like, befriend and feel like I'm on the same page with.
Chase looked like me, so that's why I friend.
Perfect. Yeah.
I mean, he really followed me for fucking 2 years. And I'm just like, okay, dude.
Yeah. So, but this is the thing. So you see, but then you start doing comedy. And you're like, oh, you hear people do jokes that you like. You're laughing at them. Then you want to like go and introduce yourself more. So I think what happens for a guy that looks like me is that people are like, oh, I've seen that type. He'll be out of here in a month.
I see.
You do your act, and it's not.
And then hopefully that changes people's opinions, but you can't.
Yeah.
I can't be the janitor for other people's emotions. So
no,
it's like,
or protect them either.
Like that happens for a black person, that happens for a white guy, that happens for a woman, that happens for a fat girl, skinny girl, fat guy, skinny guy.
I mean, you're going on stage to be judged. It's going to happen.
But that happens in the beginning at open mics too. So it's like I did deal with that, but like I dealt with that in the same level of dealing with that everyone deals, So and I think the people that cry about the white male thing spend too much energy crying and not enough time writing.
Working.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can complain. Everyone can complain.
This is what I heard. I heard this before, and I was like, yeah, everyone can complain, and it was like a math equation to it. 80%, don't really care, and the other 20%. I'm sorry, 20% people really don't care. The other 80% are happy that you're failing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the numbers work out that way.
That's very positive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, but I think of it differently. I think of it like, everyone's the star of their own movie, and we're all just trying to get our own shit.
Absolutely.
And also, like, that's why I've also always been proactive about creating my own stuff and writing my own stuff. Like, stand-up, 99% of stand-ups that are able to tour the country are able to do it because of other things.
Sure.
So what is the other thing? Like, am I, and I'm not, I've acted and I can act, but I have no passion for it. I love to write stuff out. So I was always like, hey, I want to write stuff on a weekly basis, and I'll give away my material to websites in exchange for eyes.
I've read. You're a great writer. They're great articles.
I mean, they've been fun for me to watch, and I write, and then that's kind of what turned into the podcast. So it's like, and then I was always proactive on partnering with the internet. Is both what's going to kill us and save us.
Sure.
So it's like,
oh yeah,
I've teamed up and with websites that had their own following that was much bigger than mine, that I thought were audiences that would like me. And I was like, okay, how do I get them to see me as bigger than the site that they're on? and I've been, those relationships have been great, and I still keep in contact with a lot of those sites. And the new podcast that we started called the You Up, I started with Betches, and they have 6 million Instagram followers, and those are all girls that a lot of women. I'd say it's a large female audience.
We have a healthy female listenership too.
So they all heard my opinions on the Me Too movement, but I believe in it, whatever. But
no, it's laughable, but it really is.
You have to say it. You have to say.
It's weird that you have to. The fact that you have to say that you're a decent human now before you.
Yeah,
it's sad.
I understand.
I understand it. I feel like I feel like guys need to do more to police our own bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is less trustworthy to me than a guy who calls himself a feminist.
Oh, absolutely
like, you see that guy, like, I am a feminist.
Of course. And
shut the fuck up, dude. Who are you trying to get laid by? You're
a liar. You're a fucking liar.
You're such a feminist. You're trying to get blown.
Jared, I hate when I fucking go into comedy clubs, like when I see open micers at showcases, and as soon as a comedian, like male comedian's like, I'm a feminist, I want to throw my fucking beer at them.
Yeah, we live in the tell me generation. Everyone out there is trying to tell you.
If you wear a black suit, you care about women. It's like, some of those guys beat their wives. Like, give me a fucking break.
It's just easy to look good than to be good.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier. So, like, there's a lot, and I think a lot of those guys who call themselves feminists are, like, the opposite. They're, like, what they do is they pander to women because they don't think that they can, like, act
they
on the same
infantilize
level.
them. Essentially.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's you see a lot of. I think we're front row to bullshit because we see people go up on the mic, and we see what they do to get an audience on their side.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the easy way. Hey guys, racism is bad, and so is misogyny. Now let's start with the jokes. It's like what?
Yeah.
What? What do you? Okay.
And like you always say, truth to paper. What are you really saying? Instead of loading on the upfront. Get to what you're saying and make a point, make it funny.
Yeah, and it's also like the thing about tell me versus show me. Like we live in a world right now where everyone wants to tell you what they are before they actually show you what.
Especially in this business.
This business, but everything. Like look on Instagram. Like
that's what drives you nuts.
Dating apps. I am
bullshit.
I am this. I am that. I am this. Why don't you write I'm the witty friend. Why don't you write a funny line and then I'll like this whole thing of like. People don't get me. I'm so quirky, and it's like, or maybe you're bombing.
Yeah, I speak sarcasm. Oh, you're just an asshole.
Yeah, speak asshole. But it's like, and guys are doing it too. This isn't to say that it's just women. It's the guys. Yeah. I'm this, and then I'm just it's just like It's very much a sign of the time because we all want to be interesting, and the internet has shown us that the whole term basic, like that only exists now because we're all getting front row seats to everyone in our generation, so you see how alike we actually are. So it's like, we have to say that that's basic so that we can elevate ourselves above
that standard.
The fat part of the graph.
Social media shows us that we're all kind of a piece of shit.
We're all the same. We're all the same.
Exactly. We're just human. We're just human.
10% away from each other. That's why when I hear people wax on it, like I know nothing about everything that's going on. And I don't think that people know that much more than me.
No.
So I trust myself knowing nothing. So I'm like, I guess everyone else is just kind of talking out their ass.
Yeah. And a big part of what we do in this podcast is just admitting you don't know shit. It's like, hey, this is my half-informed opinion.
Sure.
Help me.
Like even going back to talking about like the women having power.
Chase loves it.
Like, well, that's the thing. Like even talking about the women having power, like that with their looks in the same way that a rich guy with a job opportunity has power. That's bull. Like I don't know how.
It's not them.
I don't know how much that matches up.
Right.
But I know that like that's a conversation that you don't hear a lot of because it's hard. No, nothing's talked in nuance. It's just either retweets don't happen for anything that's meh.
Exactly.
They only happen for hate and love.
Love, yeah. That was yeah.
So it's just.
I think the big thing here for me is like, for what you're saying is, the lack of self-reflection.
Yeah.
To a degree. Like, I think, if everyone could just wake up in the morning and just say, it's okay to be like, yo, I am a piece of shit.
I got a little bit of dirt on me.
Here's the other thing. We're not going to change anyone else. That's the other thing that we forget.
Yes, absolutely right.
We're all stuck in whatever way you were brought up. Maybe there's like a little chance for wiggle and you'll change. But the only boat you can steer is your own.
Yes.
So it's like there's a lot of people that feel like they're trying to parent other people, which kind of bothers me. Like, and I don't like...
Parent or guide?
parent
shit.
guide is
talk
different.
down to almost.
That's the thing. Tell me versus show me. Like,
Okay.
Like I don't. You see a lot. Like I just like internet shit. So I like the Twitter stuff of like, why don't you stop being mean to people? And it's like, what? Like just these like professions that like of like
as you judge others.
We had like I wasn't raised by wolves.
Exactly.
Like everyone is speaking to each other like we're all on this tail end of the graph.
And at the same time, though, we all have parents who are all of a similar age, sort of the oldest as it gets in terms of millennials. But a lot of what they do is because their parents didn't give a shit, and their parents complain about them too. It's like
I used to do a joke.
New York Times writers love talking about how millennials are the most entitled generation. Blah blah blah. It's like. But you baby boomers who birthed these kids and raised them, they're assholes because you raised them to be an asshole. Like, it's not coming from nowhere.
I used to do, I mean, everyone does some version of I would say, if I do an older, I'll do different jokes for like an older crowd. Like if I'm at like I was in Vegas for a week and it was pretty old. Like it was like older and white is really what it was.
Move your references around.
Now you know how I feel.
Yeah.
Every show he goes to.
This is what I was looking at. And I said, whenever it's a crowd like that, I know what they want.
Sure.
So I'm like, I said something like, oh, you guys, I say, we're the first generation that got trophies whether you won or lost. And then there's always the same reaction from that group. They're all, yeah, that's right. And I'm like, yeah, you're the idiots who gave them to
who
us.
made us helpless.
Yeah, you. What do you think we were for? Walking to the trophy store?
Yeah, entitlement. I was born with entitlement. Like,
yeah, this idea that we're like, oh yeah, picking like that we needed the trophy. You could have said no. You know?
Why don't you own a home? Because you made it too expensive. You fucking cunt.
I'm one of the very few things that I'm proud of, and there's not a lot.
Okay.
Is the trophies that I earned when I was a kid.
Sure.
Well, because we're just old enough to start made winners and losers.
It may sound corny, but I earned...
Chase is in his Letterman's jacket right now. His high school Letterman's jacket for those listening at home.
Yes.
He was in his Zubaz dance crew pants, actually. This is the 90s.
I was in,
this Belle Bib DeVoe gear.
I was in a dance group in the 90s. It was called...
I think I knew that. I think you told me that.
Did I just randomly told you that? I'm sorry.
Getting hammered to laugh.
Yeah. The group was called Armani. It's irrelevant to what I'm about to say. But the trophies that I earned it. I had to go try out. I had to, and I had to and
yeah, you learn the all too important life lesson of you lost, you're a loser, deal with it. Get better. You learn. That's how you learn.
Like you do these college shows too, and it's like. I do this joke and it never works at the colleges.
And you keep doing it. I love it.
Keep doing it.
Real comic right there.
I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know. I went to a school called Florida Gulf Coast University to do a show once. I went to Penn State. But went to Penn State, but I went to Florida Gulf Coast University to do a show.
A party school, really, frankly.
It's a party school. It's a new school. It's like one of those stories that the schools that
was
just
Florida. It's not liberal, theoretically.
Theoretically, but they basically created a school out of whole cloth. Like it's crazy. It's in Fort Myers, like where the Red Sox play.
So Central Florida. Okay.
Like West Coast.
West Coast, 2 hours south of Tampa. My girl's moving down there. So.
Okay. So they have like a man-made beach. It's the most amazing school. The only reason I knew it was because of Dunk City during the
3 years ago.
Yeah. So they have a beach on campus, and then there's dorm rooms like on the beach. So you could. And I was doing I say that to you guys. You both look at me like, that's crazy.
And these kids are crying.
So I went on, not even crying. I went on stage and I go, thank you for having me. And when you go to any college, you try to just talk about the school. I go, you guys have a fucking beach on campus. And then their attitude wasn't like what you guys just gave. Like, I know, it's crazy. They were like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Everybody has one.
What are you talking about? That's my beach. I just looked at them like, what? Like, I can't. I was like, wait a minute, they're not.
Then I get it.
Like, so gracious about this. And then I go, well, you guys have dorm rooms on the beach, and they're like, yeah. What's the problem? And I was like, you have a beach house at 18 years old, and then they continued to be like, of course. Who doesn't have a beach house at 18 years old? And I looked at them. I took a minute, and I go, well. For most of you, that's the last beach house you'll ever have. And they looked at me like I took a knife and murdered Santa Claus on stage. Like I took
never
Santa
thought I'd
Claus,
have a real house of my own, let alone a second beach house. And these kids
crazy. And I talk about that on stage at other colleges, and the other colleges, they never see the funny in that. They're like, yeah, of course.
Dude,
they go to
the
Florida
fact
Gulf
that you're
Coast.
in
Well, that's
college
what you
drinking,
get.
like, yeah.
Yeah, but I was the same way. Like, it's not to say that I wasn't, I'm not above them. I'm just saying, like, when you're in that bubble of college where it's like, take the test.
And you're 19 and the world's easy to you.
And also, like, your idea of, like, wins and losses are very different. Like, our ideas of wins and losses come from many losses that should have been wins. For a college kid, and I think for anybody leading up to college, and I wish there was, like, and this is the same for me. This is why, like, the quarter life crisis kind of exists now. Because, because I don't think we're preparing, and I feel I'm in this group. I don't think people are properly prepared for, like, how wins and losses happen. Like, if you're Absolutely. Coming out of college, and so the idea of college is, here's the material. If you study this material, you will get the grade that you deserve based on the amount of studying you get. And even if you don't, and the whole class doesn't, we'll say, my bad, that was me doing the wrong thing. We'll curve the test.
They give you a set of rules.
And then, you just live by them, and you'll be fine. College is very easy as long as you do the work. The things that get in the way of college and why people say it's not easy is because, you fuck up, you drink, you get lazy, and I've been there.
Yeah.
There's a thing called the Harvard A, where everyone at Harvard gets an A.
I went to a fancy schmancy school, and I told him this. The hardest thing about being there was getting in.
Yeah.
Once you're in, they are not going to let you fail, and they're not throwing you out because it's a smear on them.
And that's the thing. And also, you're keeping up with the tide. So it's like, if all your friends are out studying, you got to go fucking study. Like, unless you, like, get torn into alcoholism or whatever.
Sure.
So it's like, in life, and I think what we learn in comedy, I used to sell life insurance. I would do cold calls every day. They would tell you, make 300 calls, and maybe 3 of them work out.
Exactly. Eating a dick.
Yeah. So, like, and then I was like, wow, this is really, like, and then when 3 of them, I would get 3 appointments from the 300 calls, then none of those worked. And I'd be like, well, I did everything.
The rule book.
Sometimes you do everything, and
life sucks.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Goodbye. And then I think a lot with the college stuff now, where you see a lot of kids protesting and, all this stuff, like, I think there's this idea that life shouldn't be uncomfortable.
Yeah, but they were sold that story, too, in a lot of ways.
I was, too.
In a lot of ways, like I said, it's a two-way street. Like, yeah, they do believe these things that I did everything right. How come I don't have what's owed me?
Sure.
But someone told them that if you do these things, this is what you get. And it's like, no. That's not true, too.
And then the other problem is that now you have, like, a window into everyone's lives, and you only see the best parts. So there's a lot of people that are looking at someone's Instagram account going, like, well, they have it easy. And it's like, no, they did whatever they did to get there. Or maybe they did, but that's also, life isn't fair.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, like, even when we tell a joke on stage, like, the idea that, like, people ask you, how do you get into comedy? It's like, well, you go do it and you fail a bunch, and then hopefully things work out. And it's like, and also, hopefully you're doing enough that hopefully becomes a greater chance of working out.
Working out.
Exactly.
Did you get a lot of this coming from, like, did you learn this on your own, or does this come from, like, how you were raised?
And,
like,
a step back, how you started with, as you said, the genesis.
Because when I hear you, I'm like, a lot of this is what he's saying. Is like, wow, he seems like maybe he's getting a lot of this from his parents. Like,
it's a philosophy.
It's a philosophy. Was this something that you learned? Like,
I don't know. I guess I don't know. Like I don't think I was raised any better or differently than anyone else. I think that.
Well, values I'm referring to.
But I think, like, my family does. My dad is a big, like, I think, like, we're, like, very dollars and cents. So it's like, it comes down to that. So, like, I do live, I think a lot of comics live in a world where money doesn't exist, and they're just here to do the art, and, they want to tell people they have no aspiration for money, they just want to be an artist. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, you don't live in a vacuum. You're doing this, and my goal when I started doing comedy was, I want to be funny for money. I want this to be my career. I want this to be my life. I want to be my livelihood. So I think if you ignore that reality, that's what you're doing this for, you're ignoring half of the puzzle. And that doesn't mean people who, and there are people who do too much of that stuff. We know the people that are just hustle comics, and we know the people that are just comics. You have to be a little bit in between. You have to look at the realities. You have to do the math every time. So like anytime there's been a failure, like, my dad wouldn't go to me like, fuck them. He would always say, well, they didn't see a way to make money off of you. Time to move on. If you look at the world that way a little bit more, you're like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep moving on until I find someone.
And that's healthy.
I think it is. I don't know whether it's healthy or not.
It's learning how to accept rejection. And, all right, well, it didn't work there. Just keep going. Next thing. Don't dwell on the loss. Worry about the next win.
Sure. And every day, I was telling you about the live J Train show. Like I'm doing a live podcast, and like there's there's a lot of people coming. How do I make that the next thing? And I already have and this was always like how I've operated from day one, because it's like, and I think it helps that I did the life insurance thing, because you see how the failure rate.
You had a real job.
So I think the failure rate of things, where it's like you see how many things fail, and you're like, well, I got, what they would say to you is like, you got to get 3, if you get 3 appointments, they would math it out for you.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do that. You can't do that with comedy, but you can do that with the amount of stuff you're putting out there, and how many are you sending emails every day? Are you getting in touch with comedy clubs? Are you constantly churning? Because if you stop churning, maybe something good happens today, but that good stuff happened today because of what I did 6 months ago, a year ago. I got this. I'm doing this thing with Snapchat that should be happening soon. I think I'm gonna have to go to LA for a month.
There you go. Get a nice tan.
What's that?
Get a nice little tan while you're out there.
I'll have a tan, the whole deal. And
sorry.
So I hope it's happening. I'm only talking about it because
you're excited about it, right? And you want it to happen.
I'm 99%. I don't like to talk about things that we're working it out. It's
even that, like I said, you've taken enough faith to know that this is highly probable, but until it's
if this didn't happen,
15 episodes in, I'm not talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. But per an example, so we taped a pilot. I did 2 days in LA, and I taped a pilot, and I got there, and they were like, I had auditioned for this role of whatever it was, and then I sent in the tape. I was like, that was a good audition. Whatever. Next thing. But they come back. It's happening. You're going to LA. You're going to shoot the pilot. Great. Yeah. They picked, and I get to the pilot. The guy there is a dude that I have been emailing my columns to for 5 years.
Boom.
And he didn't. Did he remember?
Of course.
Oh, yeah. There you
the
go.
guy's sitting there
That's
looking
what
at me.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying, but this is the thing. It's like none of this matters and everything matters at the same time. Yeah. So like this guy.
You were preparing for that moment.
Without even knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy who I was kind of embarrassed about it, because I was like, I've been emailing this guy for 5 years. But he's always written back. He's always been like, hey, this is great, or hey, not for us, or he was in a producer role, and he was a writer.
There's a good producer
and I knew him.
who keeps things in the fire. That's a guy you want to work with.
I would have in my calendar every 3 months, hey, just checking in. Here's something that I'm proud of. Just want to send it over. And now I'm looking at him. I go, what the hell are you doing here? He goes, I'm one of the showrunners of this thing. And I go, no fucking way. And then so now I'm going in my head. I'm like, oh, this is like kismet.
Now you got an advocate though. Now you got a
advocate, but like when your audition tape comes across the table,
I know this guy.
And you don't email people for that moment, but that's what it results in. You know, and now we're gonna make this thing. It got ordered for a lot of episodes, and I hope we make them, because I don't know, as of now, I don't know.
See, part of your social media, too, is like, I see you on social media, we follow each other.
Yeah.
And you're always supportive, which is always awesome.
Thanks.
But, you're kind of like one of these comics that I like, because you're not afraid of the hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're always, like, you just always have, like, Jared always has something for you to watch.
Yeah,
he's always on point, son. I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna wash his balls right now, or in your terms, feather the nuts.
Feather the nuts.
To JJ podcaster. He is on 100% of the time in terms of social media and availability. Like, I'll text Jared and he'll get back in 2 seconds. Yeah. And we hang out. We're friends. We're friendly.
Yeah, that's half addiction, half.
But I'm saying
half you like.
No, but that addiction. But that same addiction is I'm giving them the funny, and they'll pay me later.
Sure. This is.
Like Chase said, you always have something in the holster.
This is the trust you have to have, and that's why the internet's like.
You can take a general meeting right now. I bet you have fucking 3 ideas to talk about, or something.
Yeah.
I got this thing I'm working on, or this idea. This like.
To me, that's the job. I don't like. Right. I don't.
But a lot of quote unquote comedians don't see that as the job.
I think they might not, but I don't know.
You don't know.
I was always told don't get. I try my best, and this is the hardest thing I think to do is you try not to. You can't count the money in other people's wallets.
Oh.
Like you can't, because you're never gonna be right.
Real quickly, Jared, before you even fucking move on, you just said it perfectly. Because this fucker next to me, right? Before we started all this shit, we went to go get podcast equipment. Yeah. Right? We went to Guitar Center, right? And we're from the 90s, so like, we're still talking like 90s lingo.
Sure.
Whatever that is means.
Well, the VHS tape, we'll take your Goonies.
All that shit.
Yeah.
So when you said don't count pockets, whatever. I remember here, he's ordering all this shit, right? And Randy, he doesn't really know much about like podcasting and at the time comedy, whatever. No, comedy he knew, but it was just the whole equipment shit, mics and all that. So I'm trying to tell him like, no, don't get a studio mic, get like a condenser mic, that's better, And Randy has like sometimes he gets like has like anxiety, so he gets like when he doesn't know something, he gets like more instead of like listening, he'll like get angry.
Yeah.
So he just comes out of the pot. He just comes like in front of everyone in the whole story. He goes, "Yo, stop counting my pockets, son."
So I'm quoting Randy right now.
So yeah, I relate. So you can proceed with that story. I just had to share it.
It's just the idea of like in comedy, you can be like, well, how did that person get that, or how did this, or what are they getting from that? And it's like if you keep doing that, you're gonna be exhausted. Like you can only put your time in your own shit.
Sometimes I look at you, I'm like, is this guy does he ever get fucking tired?
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I've seen the J Train fucking tired. I've hung over. It shows on your face.
Dude, I get hung over.
But
no, but I think that's the thing. Like I genuinely enjoy putting that stuff out there. Like the Bachelor stuff. Like anything I've done is because I've had fun doing it, and then I'm like, okay. And I'm also not afraid to put it out there and get judged by it. Yeah. So, like, I like The Bachelor. I started tweeting about it. People were, like, really catching on. I didn't know that there was this whole, like, community online. So now it's, like, a part of my life, and I like doing it. But I think the thing with comedy, too, is, like, when to, like, keep doing something, when to, like, release from something. That's a tough thing.
And you're also a really positive guy about it in the sense that we talk about this shit a lot. It's like, you doing well and you putting out what you want to put out isn't like infringement upon anybody else or anybody else's success in that like you're like, oh, somebody else got this, somebody else got that. It's like, no, man, we're all baking our own pie. We're not stealing slices from each other. This is not how it works.
I call it the sickness. I call it like you see a lot of comics get into that, and it's very easy. It's very easy to fall into, and like because you can. And I think I took advice. I've always just been open to take advice because I like giving. The podcast is a lot of giving advice, but I think good advice givers are ones that are good at taking them and listening to them. And one guy told me, he's like, anytime I feel bad, I just write. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, every time I feel bad, I just take out a pen and paper and I try to write jokes. And it makes me feel better because I'm the owner of my own, destiny type of thing. Yeah. And that gets into like,
spiritual connection type thing
and all that shit, which I'm not into, but I try.
But some of it works. I mean,
it works.
Writing, exercise, all that shit.
All that shit, and like if I don't have a joke, let me go through tweets. Which one did well? Let me go talk on that. And it's like
I'll watch an old special, dude. I'll watch
watch a special, write during someone's special, like just all those exercises. And people talk about New York being a gym, and I think like with you, how many times you can get on stage, but like the internet's a gym too. You can go on the internet, work shit out, and then that can be something. Like I'll tell you about one thing I've been doing, and then I'm really excited to do more of. I've been doing dudes watching rom-coms. I put these videos on Instagram.
Me and Chase are big fans.
Love rom-coms.
You know what it is.
And I got something to say. So I started putting on my Instagram stories me watching.
Yes.
What was it? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. So I'm watching this and I'm putting up my commentary and people are writing back, hey, this is fucking hilarious. I never thought of it that way. And I get a lot of women that follow me. So it's like, so I was like, oh, okay, here's another thing that gets me excited. I'm home on a Monday night, Tuesday night. I got no shows. I did an open mic earlier. Okay.
No date?
No date. I'm going to watch fucking... I'm going to watch You've Got Mail and tell you what I think.
So we all follow each other on Instagram and all the social media accounts, and I'll check Jared shit out. And twice a month,
Stocks. You missed that.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
We're
all stalking.
Exactly. Twice a month, I'm like, damn. Jared will tweet out something or send someone on Instagram like a joke that. It's like, fuck, I wish I wrote that. And he just has that to throw away. Like, for free to the internet. I'm like, fuck, man, how did I miss
a lot of those I should probably start putting into a book and like actually doing on stage.
A little
like,
coffee table book?
I try, or that too, but I do use that to see what, like, anything I put up online, I'm like, okay, this is what I would start something on. Is there enough here? Am I thinking on the same wavelength as the audience that likes me the most? And if it works for them, it's going to work for the
He and I both use a podcast in that way. We use this to do that kind of, and I know you do too as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's stories that, we do news at the end and, like, dating stuff and talking about all that stuff. And,
it's fun.
Yeah, this
fun
is
shit.
all an exercise.
Fucking better be fun or else.
One thing that was fun, I'm sure that you probably enjoyed, was you fucking playing in front of like 18,000 people at Comics Come Home.
It was
at the
crazy.
Garden.
Yeah, it was nuts.
There was 2 girls that actually came to Lab Boston from the podcast. I didn't fucking tell you this.
Okay.
They were like, they went to Comics Come Home, saw you at Comics Come Home, didn't know who you were, and they were like, we heard that he was coming back to Lab Boston. We followed him from Comics Come Home.
That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
Yeah, it's cool. Comics Come Home, like, I didn't realize how big a credibility that was, like, back in Boston. Like, even growing up there, like, I'd heard of it and known about it. But, like, it just wasn't something, like, my family went to every year. Like, there's people that go every single year. And just to be a part of it in any way, it was, like, the coolest. And, like, that's another thing where you see the most successful people are the most positive and nice and ready to give you advice. So, like, seeing, anyone who's not successful being miserable, I always think of, like, go do Comics Come Home, and Lenny Clark is coming up to you being like, you pumped to meet me. Like, how could I not be pumped?
Right.
How could I not be excited? Like Jimmy Fallon being like, hey, man, tell me your story. And it's like, what? Like...
Do you know who you are?
Yeah, so, like, that show was like... and also, what's nice, and, like, this is a very selfish thing to do, I think. I think doing comedy is
extremely selfish.
You have to, like, put aside family and friends, and you have to look family in the face and be like, hey, I'm going to take a turn in my life that maybe you didn't prepare me for or you were never prepared for. So a lot of stuff like Comics Come Home is like, I feel like it's a win for them more than me. Like,
oh, okay.
So it's like
to legitimize all the things you put everyone else who cares about you through.
Yeah, and I don't think I put them through anything, so to speak, but I do think, like...
But their support, you feel like parents, you owe them...
I remember telling them about I want to do this, and they're like, what? And they didn't get it, and, like, I think, like, something like this is like them being like, oh, like all this stuff, like all the stuff working towards in comedy, like anything you're, like, working hard at, like, you're gonna work hard at anything. You have successes and failures, like, and it's cool to share those. I'm sure for anyone and anything they do with family and friends. So it was cool for me. For, like, Comics Come Home, like people from high school that came out, like I got added to like a Needham High. Alumni page, and like
you made it to Needham High Hall stuff.
Yeah, just like it was cool to see people take pride in that I represented them in some way.
Yeah,
I think more than anything, like, and because I just want to do, we all just want to do fun shows. Like that's there's certain shows that there are people there that feel a part of it.
Oh,
and
big time.
That's really cool. Like, there's people that, like, if I have success or if I get a job, there's people sitting at home in the same way that I sit at home when I see, like, like if I see, like, one of you guys you post on Facebook. This is the difference. Like, you if you
personally happy for them.
Yeah, I'm like, if I see someone that I've seen going to open mics and working on shows and they get something, I'm like, fuck, yes, win for the team. Like,
yeah, exactly right, the team.
Yeah,
we talked about that, me and Randy, like, because like, mean to cut you off, Jared, but no, like you definitely are like one of those guys that, you show love. Sure. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, for people who are like, no matter what level you are, and that's so like helpful when you have someone that
in any career,
anything,
any endeavor that anyone.
For sure, I just...
It can be minute. It's very minute, but it's very...
It's a lot easier to be a naysayer than be like, keep going. It's hard, and
Totally.
you get it, and
Just
you
like
get
a
a win,
like.
you celebrate. You know,
One like on like an Instagram post can be like, oh, this guy's
feels good. They're behind me. I think that's like, and we don't acknowledge it because we're like on Instagram, like that's so stupid. But like that's the world we live in, where it's not stupid. There's a currency to that, and whether I think like a lot of times, like if it's a friend of mine that posted something, and I'm like, whether funny or not, I'm behind it. You know, like that's them putting themselves out there, and like, you know, like, and most of the time they're funny, you know, like,
right.
But I'm saying like just the idea of like you took the extra second to be like, hey, I'm here for whatever you're putting out. Like
dude, it's so funny you mentioned that. Man,
yeah,
I was so stingy about likes before I started doing this, and I'm like, wait a minute, if you're putting yourself out there,
yeah,
and you're being funny.
Likes
It's not in a
so
vacuum.
weird.
I hear you. I see it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if likes didn't matter, we'd be liking everything we see.
but I still don't give out likes like that.
Wouldn't we?
Think about it this way: you get likes from tons of people, and many of them you might not know, and some of them is like, oh, whatever. But if someone that you respect likes something that you go, oh shit,
I heard
that means something.
Recently, I was told that someone that I respected said something negative about me. And it was it really made me upset.
And you just left your apartment today?
Yeah, I just left darkness. But I heard like a secondhand story, and
I hate that shit.
And it's because it was someone I respect, and it was like the type of shit talking that
you thought was beneath them almost.
I thought it was beneath me.
Oh,
you know,
really?
like I
Wow.
thought it was. I thought it didn't give me any credit, and I thought, and I was like, in my mind, you hear a story like that, and I know the person who told me was genuinely just trying to be like, hey, watch out, whatever. And I do, I respect what this person does too. So like, not to say anyone who's making it, I respect what they're doing. Like anyone who's doing it, I respect that. But like, and I also know that there's different tastes for different people. So like,
absolutely,
if the kind of comedy someone does is like, I'm like, but still, I get it. You know, I get who you service. I get that there's an audience, and so like. When I heard that, it was like, oh, if one person's saying that about me, there must be a group of people saying it about me, because if that person felt comfortable enough saying it to someone who I knew, you know, I'm doing like this is a moment where my mom used to always be like, "You're so sensitive. You're so no." I just noticed. I'm not mad about it. I'm just noticing that, like, okay, let's do the math on this.
Yeah, this is the waterfall.
This guy said something negative about me that genuinely hurt my feelings to someone that I am friends with. So that means he felt comfortable enough saying that to him because he's already said it to 4 other people.
Who else did he say it to?
Took it in well.
You're doing the chest. You're doing the chair.
He worked out the bit. He's not telling that to people if he bombed. Yeah. So it put me into like I was really feeling badly about it, and I was I do think you have to it's kind of a lesson. The way I look at that, this person isn't like thrown away to me. Like I just will I just put them in a bucket where I'm like, okay, that's a not supportive bucket, as opposed to, it's not I hate them. I just just not on
you
my
may
side.
not buy them a beer at the bar if you see them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This guy, whatever. So, but I do think that it makes you think of the things you say about other people. Like like when you give, because we all shit talk. We all look at someone and go, fuck that whatever, and it's like. Having it come back to me, I was like, like the energies aren't good. I'd like to put out. I'd like to put up more, and not bullshit. I'm not saying in the bullshit. Everyone should be positive. Like, listen, I fucking talk shit.
Of course.
But you gotta just know that what you're putting out there is like gonna get around.
It's gonna get around, and also once it gets around, you also have to be prepared for what comes back at you.
Yeah, and it also put me in a way where it's like I was trying to write stuff after hearing that, and I couldn't really write.
Oh, it's getting in your head.
Yeah, is this what people think of me? Like, is it a certain group? And it's like, I just, and then like I ended up like pushing through it. I took a night off. And that's how much it hurt me.
Wow.
Like, I took a night off, and then I
for a comedian taking a night off is like getting fucking cancer.
Yeah,
it's like chemotherapy.
It's so I like had some drinks that night, reset, came back the next day, and I wrote this thing that ended up getting me that I was now in my head about, but it ended up getting me, to the next level with the thing I was writing. Like it ended up being a successful thing. So that was kind of like, you just have different days,
Yeah. I noticed that when in comedy, like when you meet people, like before you got into comedy, it's like when I got into comedy, I thought like the entertainment business was like a great thing.
Yeah.
You know, like like I thought like everyone was fucking positive. Everyone like was like happy. Every comedian's like fucking wants to be your
You
friend.
thought it was like finger painting in 5th grade or some shit.
Yeah. And then once I like got into it really, because I started as like a door guy, you know, at a comedy club. Then I started to like see comedians, and I started to like meet comedians. I'm like, oh shit! Like, not everybody is a good person.
Well, and that's any business. But I think also it's more upsetting in a luxury business. I consider this a luxury business. Like
it's like I gave up. I gave up. You know, benefits and some sort of security to do this, and you're being a cunt about it.
Yeah, like you're the luckiest person alive. You know,
right?
Like, it's tough. It's that's a tough aspect of it.
Yeah, but you're like in closing, like you're like I think you're the type of dude that's like you keep it pushing, you keep it moving. You know, every time I always ask you about something or I'll ask you advice, you're like, don't worry about that shit. You can't worry about that shit.
Yeah.
Like, and it replicates to like where you are in your career, because as you're like moving up and you're hustling, you can see that. You know, because people who fucking who pay attention to that bullshit, the work is not being made.
It's a positive honesty. It's like he won't blow smoke up your ass and and tell you that it's sunshine and rainbows when it's not. But it's positive interaction and the way you deliver it. It's just, like I said, we're all imperfect, trying to figure out our way.
I think he's just not with the fuck shit. Like, honestly, Jared's not with the fuck shit. Like, he's just like, yo, bro, you want to like do this shit?
Do you give a shit about comedy or not?
Or if you don't as much, you better fucking that energy has to be put into the hard work.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you Chase taught me in comedy. It's like whatever you're doing, as long as you're being honest and putting in the work.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bash you. No one's gonna bash you around me. Like if you gotta
You're
keep
out
going.
there, just keep doing, keep pushing stuff out, keep doing stuff you like to do. Like
absolutely.
That's the other thing. Like everyone's like, do you love it? And I'm like, if I didn't love it,
who do you respect in comedy? Like, who do you like? Who's the people that you can like?
You guys inspired you.
I always have to ask this before everybody.
Like I don't know. Like, what do you?
I guess my question is when you that you're like, wow, I love this comedian. Like this
coming up.
I love right now. I love and then these are just
we mentioned a couple
fans
before.
Of Jessica Curson.
Yes,
you saw her last night. She's unbelievable and she's so good. Roy Wood Jr. That special was
saw him in
amazing.
Austin. He's amazing.
On your podcast, I heard that interview. That was great.
Yeah, he's so funny and he's a worker. And then like. You see what Michelle Wolf and Che and like all these people that I kind of started with or around. What they're doing is like so great. Like like.
What about coming up? Like before you even who?
I know he likes.
Were you into comedy before you?
Before like I started, I loved Kevin James. I
okay.
love that special.
Okay.
Sweat the Small Stuff was my favorite special.
Yeah.
Just because I think Kevin James was 3-dimensional. Like every joke had a move. And like that's kind of what I want.
I can see
mine.
I can see it.
Yeah, that's what I would want to do. And I like how physical he was and how it was not just a joke. Like I want it to be the full thing. I want it to be a party,
a performance.
Yeah, and I would like to be more like him be more like that special. But like beyond him, like I like Burr. Just because I like. Sure. Like I like the way he comes out at things, and he's not afraid to go on a topic. But those were my two.
I can see that mix. You think Kevin James? Like, oh, it's a little too mainstream, but I can see that in your act in terms of like the performance. Like he's a fucking unbelievable.
I love what he does.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you watch. There's that one bit where he's going through the line at the bank.
Yes.
And he's just going back and forth, and you're like, it was there the whole time. We all saw it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he was
and he was like, this is the funniest fucking shit ever, and he did it, and the greeting card.
Yeah.
But those were and now I wasn't like a comedy fan before I started. I'm of course a fan, but like I started this as like I liked being funny for my friends. I liked, so like those were, and Artie Lang too was like, that was the DVD we used to, It's the Whiskey Tongue. We passed it around my fraternity like a million times. But like my thing was like, my favorite part of my day was writing funny emails to friends and having one person write back to that email and say it was great.
Making other people laugh.
Yeah. And like my buddy and I would sit in my fraternity and we would like basically do sketches, like 2-man improv. and sketches for, and our friends would come in. They'd be like,
That's so
we'd be like, what are you doing here? They're like, we just want to come, like on a hungover Sunday. They'd be like, we just came in to listen to you guys.
That part of the world. I'm sorry, that part of the world, that fraternity shit. Sure. Like I don't know.
Oh, we can tell you all about
you guys.
it.
You guys in a fraternity. You guys in a fraternity.
Where were we in a fraternity?
At Brown.
At Brown. See, that Brown's
Sigma
like
Chi.
a fratty school.
Not really.
No.
So being in like the biggest, whitest frat as a biracial kid was a fucking gas, man.
Really?
I mean, yeah. Part of the reason I joined the fraternity was because it was a, sort of a slap in the face to the like super like hardcore progressive vibe.
Oh,
Brown.
yeah, it's very
I'm a liberal guy,
yeah,
but
yeah, it's crazy.
and I'm a it's not, you know what I'm saying, like
it's out of control there. Yeah.
So I was like, these motherfuckers are doing like
Brown,
they're pulling their cock out of the university. I gotta roll with that. Whoever said fuck you to the boss was who I was rolling with.
I just joined because I wanted to drink.
Housing helped, and obviously getting laid and drugs. I mean,
Penn State was just a debacle. Like it was just crazy.
Every college.
But
Penn State especially.
Scene, I didn't know about it until I got there. And then I just was like, oh, these are guys that like that fun.
You think I knew? I grew up in the streets out here.
Like the only fraternities that I would get to is like I almost went to Howard University.
Okay, yeah.
And then our fraternities are more like it's like alpha, like
they
the
beat
black
you and brand you and
the black fraternity thing.
Hardcore, so it's like joining a gang.
But it's crazy just how into it they are. Like into it, like in a different way than the white frat guy. Like look that everyone thinks of. Yeah, they're into it in a different way too. But it's interesting. Like,
you know what's even bigger? The bands at those HBCUs. They're even more intense with their initiations and shit. Like I think it's
Dante Nero. He's a big fraternity guy.
Shout out to Dante Nero.
Yeah.
My brother listens to your podcast. He was a Dante fan. He's like, yo, this J Train? I'm like, of course, son. Of course. It's like, I'm interviewing him today. He's like, oh, no.
The fraternity thing was like crazy because I was like, when I wanted to be a freshman in college, I started like I went to college, like actually not far from Needham. I went to Mount Ida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I played basketball there. And then I was like, okay, I'm getting kind of good. Maybe I'll just like walk on to like Howard. Yeah. So whatever. I was like, I'll just go to Howard, all black. Pretty a black college for the most part. So then my boy was already like he was being like pledged to be the new guy to come into the Alpha fraternity. Yeah. I didn't see this fucking kid. I was in his room. I didn't see this kid for a week. Yeah. I'm like, where the fuck are you, dude? Like, can we have lunch?
Yeah,
can we
black fraternities are more hardcore than all the other fraternities. Like it's crazy. And it's unbelievable. And they have the coolest stuff. They wear the shit.
Of course, obviously, everything cool in culture starts in the black community. Let's be honest. So let's just put it out on the table. Nothing good came from white culture, except for civilization.
Tony Bennett, motherfucker.
But he's Italian.
Tony Bennett.
That's kind of half a white guy.
Love him. So if you were 18 years old right now, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, he's coming thick with it.
As we leave this podcast,
keep having fun. Keep doing what you're doing.
My man.
Keeping it simple. What do you got coming up next? You want to push anything?
When does this come out? That's the normal podcast.
It'll be available tomorrow. I'll post it tonight.
We're doing a live J Train. I would just say
that's sold out, son. You already know that.
J Train podcast every Tuesdays and Fridays, and then the U Up podcast every Thursday. And I'm at Jared Freid on Instagram.
All right, and all the New York fans and friends and family and all that, go check him out. He's at the Cellar often, at the Stand Up New York. Basically every fucking club in the city he's passed
Cellar,
on.
that's the one. That's where.
All right, we don't gotta brag. I know. I know. Jared got passed. I was like, oh my god, I was so happy for him. I was like, Jesus,
yeah, guys, check out Jared. He's here in New York. He's all across the country. Please follow him. He's a great guy. Email us at rspodcast@gmail.com. Share your thoughts. Send me hello.
Hate mail.
Tell me what you think about chocolate. Anything.
Jared, thanks for doing this, man. Happy birthday to you, brother.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you guys here.
We're outside. That was Jared. I'm Randy. That's Chase. Peace.